free product placement. Do you think they'd sponsor us? I'm drinking Dasani.
I don't think so.
God damn it. I take it back. Welcome to Green.
Remove the plastic cover. Oh shit, yeah. Right.
Welcome to Creepy Conversations. I'm Nikki.
And I'm Kalai. I'm tired because just like prior to this, we were recording our like pre-game episode and we were laughing for like a minute straight for no fucking reason, and now I'm so tired.
I love it how we say it's like the pre-recording because we get to have a reason for them to think we're drunk. And that kind of explains how we are, but really we're sober as fuck.
We're not.
We're really just like this.
Yes. Our brains are drunk by nature. The amount of times that I've been asked if I'm drunk, I can't even count anymore. Like, no, this is just my brain.
I feel you. They usually ask me if I'm high, and I'm like, this is it, hun. This is it.
Natural high. Woo!
Okay.
Anyway, we're going to be covering a person from Thailand.
Oh, that was a person.
Right? Yes, that's a person. Yeah. And he is considered as Thailand's boogeyman. And his name is Ouey. I think that's how you pronounce it. Or Ouey. I've heard both ways. So I'm just going to say Ouey. Ouey.
I mean, it's an easier pronunciation. When you sent that over to me, because I literally I knew what we were going to be talking about probably an hour or two ago.
Yeah, it's a surprise.
And I thought this would be a creature. So I got surprised when you said, like, it's a person.
Nah, he kind of became like, you know what, I'll just tell the story. Oh, in some reports, his name is Quey, like Quey, but like most of the reports from Thailand are Ouey. So I'll just go with the Ouey. Yeah, the sources for this episode is Cowsod English, Coconuts Bangkok, True Crime Thailand, and nationalthailand.com. There's also an article by South China Morning Post, or SCMP, that I really wanted to read because it's like, I feel like it's very detailed. Like, I feel like most of the information that I needed were in that article, but I could only read the first two paragraphs because they were asking me to pay. Like, SCMP, girl, like, not y'all asking me to pay in the middle of a pandemic for old articles. It's an old article. It's asking me to pay for old articles.
Try sending it to me. Maybe it's like because I've read certain articles from that site, and it's not all of them that are paid. So I don't know if it's a location thing. Why you gotta do this?
I don't know. Yeah, because I was able to read articles from SCMP before too, but for that article, it was asking me to pay, and I'm like, girl, reassess, no, because information should be free. But also, if anyone from like SCMP is like listening right now, if you want to give like free membership, hit us up. creepycombos@gmail.com. But yeah, back to Ouey. If you're from Thailand or if you grew up in Thailand, chances are you definitely know who he is. He is a real person, but his story kind of became like an urban legend. You know, the kind of stories that parents or like their children tell their children so that they won't like wander off. Yeah. So here's the non-urban legend story of Ouey. Not much is known about his childhood because he wasn't from Thailand. He was a Chinese migrant. All we know about Ouey is that he was born in 1927. There are other articles that say 1921, but most of the articles say 1927, so let's stick with that. He was born as Ouey Sangyong But according to the SCMP article, his real name was Huang Lihui. I don't know how his name got changed. Maybe it's like the characters.
I think it's Li Hui. Is it Hui?
No, it's Lihui.
I think it's Li Hui.
Li Hui.
No,
How
I mean
did I read it?
Li Hui.
I can't remember.
Li Hui. Okay, look. I'm not even sure, but based on like my colleagues whose name is like it ends with UI, they pronounce it as Quey. So I think it's probably that. But I don't know.
I think so, because it sounds wrong. So yeah, let's stick with that, but we won't be using that because it's Way. Anyway, so yeah, he came from a family of farmers in southern Chinese port town of Shantou. In 1945, at only 18 years old, he was drafted to fight against invading Japanese. He said his unit was once cut off and encircled by the Japanese for weeks, while his fellow soldiers ate grass to survive. Ouey said that he turned to the flesh of the soldiers that died in the battlefield. After the war ended, Ouey came to Thailand in 1946 via cargo ship, and he landed at Klong Toi port in December 28, 1946. I don't know why I need to say the dates. But yeah, I feel like a teacher's like, I don't even know why the dates matter.
I mean, it's nice.
But yeah.
It's a good information to have.
But yeah, the years should be like the only important thing. I unless if it's like, and anyway, I'll proceed. So he took up several menial jobs at the capital in Bangkok before finding work as a gardener in Prachuap Khiri Khan. I tried to like search the pronunciation.
I love the pause.
I feel like I'm nailing it, but I can't tell because the person that I was listening for the pronunciation had like a really high-pitched voice. So it sounds different, so I don't know. But yeah.
No, I mean, was the voice like Thai? Because there are like certain places in Thailand where they do have high pitch. Like that's really how they talk.
Yeah, I guess so because they know the pronunciation. But yeah, Ouey was actually detained when he got to Thailand for the first time. He was detained for 10 days by immigration, and there are two accounts of how he got released. First was that a man named Mr. Tin Ki Saing certified him for entrance into the country, and then another story is that Mr. I don't know how to pronounce this, Ha Yong, Eoeng. It's most likely Yong, right? Mr. Ha Yong paid for his documents for him to get in. So yeah, he then proceeded to travel a lot once he got released, and then eventually decided to stay in Prachuap Khiri Khan. Yep, that's it. So let's fast forward to 1958, late on a Monday afternoon. What?
No, I
just
feel like you're nailing it, but the pause right before it's like, yes, I gotta
hesitation.
By the way, just so you know, if in case my reactions are late, it's because my connection is shit, but I can still hear you.
Oh, okay. I'll just proceed. But yeah, let's fast forward to 1958. Late on a Monday afternoon, 8-year-old Sombun Bunyakan went to buy some vegetables for his family to cook dinner from a local Chinese gardener. Why did my brain say that?
I mean, it's probably known.
Probably. But as dusk approached on that day, his father, Nawa Bunyakan, started to worry because he was supposed to be back like, at that time. And he's usually not the kid who stays late. So he called his friends, and also usually when you're a parent, you have like the sixth sense.
Yeah, you have the
that
gut
parents
feeling.
have. Yeah, that's the term, gut feeling. That's it. You kind of know like if your kid is in trouble or not. So yeah, his dad called on his friends, his dad's friends, not Sombu's friends.
I love the over explanation.
Noah called his friends to search for his missing son in the woods near their home in Rayong province. I don't know if I've mentioned that all this is happening in Rayong province. He was scared that the boy might have wandered off or got into an accident. So while they were searching for him in the woods, Noah and his companions came across a gardener burning a pile of bush. He was the same gardener that Sambun had gone to buy from. And the gardener was 37-year-old Siwei. So Nawa was kind of relieved at first. You know, he thought Siwei might have known where his son is, or maybe Siwei could provide details and like tell him where Sambun is. But then Nawa realized that usually when you see people burning like piles of leaves, the smell is different. It's just like it smells like grass that's burning. But he realized that he could smell like meat burning. So he looked at the pile of the bush, and then he saw burning under the pile of leaves was a small leg. Yes.
Wait, I'm slightly surprised. Burning human flesh would still smell like burning meat. I mean, it makes sense, but I don't know. I probably just thought. I don't know what I thought. I'm just surprised
that we don't smell like anything. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, Nawa rushed to like put out the fire and like pull out the half-burned, eviscerated body of Sumbun beneath the leaves. Nawa and his friends attacked Siwei and held him down until police arrived. And then once police arrived, they arrested him and then searched his house, where they found the boy's heart and liver in the kitchen. In the next few days, the story hit the front page of newspapers across the country. In the headlines, Siwei confessed to killing Sumbun and ripping out his insides. His confession was that he was looking for an orchard when Sumbun came to buy vegetables. He then saw the opportunity and he stabbed the boy in the throat, washed his body, cut out his liver, heart, and kidney. He then stored the organs in the kitchen cupboard for like later consumption. Siwei was, it was just lucky that he was caught burning the body to like cover up for his crime. Investigators noted from day one that Sumbun's murder kind of resembled the deaths of 5 other children killed in years prior. There were 3 children out of the 5 that were killed in Rayong, 1 in Bangkok, and the other one in Nakhon Pathom. All were stabbed in the throat with some organs removed, just like Sumbun.
Serial killer alert.
Soon, Siwei admitted to killing all of them. He told police he killed 11-year-old Nid Sepu in May of 1954, 6-year-old Mwai Chu Sewa in November 1954, 7-year-old Kim Hyang Seli in June of 1955, 10-year-old Ngan Seli in October 1955, and 5-year-old Seo-chu Selim in February 1957. All victims were, according to like a couple of articles that I read, they were ethnic Chinese. I don't know what that means, but I feel like I need to include that in the information. But yeah, before his first murder, he first attacked his first victim, 8-year-old Bangorn Pamornsat, near a market on the night of April 10, 1954. He bit her throat and tried to drag her in the woods, but she managed to escape. So he wasn't successful in like doing the murder.
Wait, hold up. He bit her throat and what?
He bit her throat and tried to drag her into the woods, but she was able to escape. So I think that's when he realized that he needed to change tactics if he wanted to like.
Why did he think that was gonna work?
Succeed.
I am mad. Okay, woo. Why did he think that was gonna work?
We'll never know. So the next time he struck was on May 19. The next victim wasn't as lucky as Bangorn. Nid Seipu, 11, was taken away from a nighttime wedding fair. Her body turned up the next morning beside a railroad line. She was stabbed in the throat. Her heart and liver and kidneys were gone, so kind of the same as Sombun. And then 6-year-old Moai Chu in Bangkok, November of that year. Then he went on to murder 7-year-old Kim Hyang Se Lee on June 22nd, 1995. Her body was found raped and brutalized. Siwei said of the killing, "It was a folding knife that I bought. I stabbed her neck and I fled, leaving her body there." Kim Hyang was the first victim, or I think she was the only victim that was raped. Soon, next, 10-year-old Ngan in Prachuap. In Prachuap. In Sam
That was
Roy
so far off.
district. In June 22. And then October 28. Wait.
Your
I think
face looks
my notes
confused.
got mixed up. Because I was editing this, I think I wasn't able to like remove some of the words. But yeah, the next one was Nakhon Pathom on Feb 6, 1957. And then the body of 5-year-old Se Chu was found mutilated next to the town's iconic landmark, like an ancient pagoda in Phra Pathom Chedi. Woo!
I love how we choose our places, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
let's pretend we can pronounce all of these.
I literally like searched the pronunciation and like put the pronunciation
Right beside it.
beside the word, but I still feel like I'm saying it wrong. But let me know if I'm doing whatever.
If she's butchering the words.
Yeah, we love to learn. So yeah. During the interrogation, he first denied that he was involved in the murders. He said, "I knew about the news of the child's murder in Nakhon Pathom. In fact, I was in that province on that night. I heard the villagers talk about it, but I did not go to see. I was waiting for the express train to return to Tapsake, which is where he lived for most of his life in Thailand." By the end of the interrogation on January 31st, 1958, Siwei admitted to the murder of all of them. He said about the murder of Se Chu in Nakhon Pathom, "That night there was an opera show for the Chinese New Year. I met the girl walking alone. I asked her to eat ginkgo at the side of the temple. I carried her to the temple. Beneath a chamchuri tree, I pushed her into the ground, covered her mouth with one hand, then with my free hand used the sharp folding knife and slit her throat. Then I dragged her body to the Pathom Chedi cave. There in secret I dissected her body and took out her liver and heart. I carried the body back to the temple but had difficulty, so I dragged the corpse and left it there." Siwei also told investigators he cut up victims because he liked eating their organs, especially the hearts. He made one exception for Moai Chu Sewa, the one that he murdered in Bangkok. He said that her heart was too small for a hearty meal, so he dined on her gullet instead. And he said it tasted delicious too. I can't believe, like, he even had like the audacity to say like it tasted delicious too. Like,
You can tell there's
no
something
one
wrong
asked.
with
Exactly. Like, you can just say that you
It's
did
like, I
it.
ate
You
it,
don't
period.
need. Yeah, we don't need to know if it's good or not. Like, the fuck.
I don't understand how people can be like, I prefer human innards. Like, I get innards are good. I love that. My favorite is like chicken heart. So I totally get when you say like those things are delicious, but why people? There's so many animals.
Chickens out there. Like so many chickens and like pigs out there. What do you need to like
I know.
You
like,
know.
Sir.
So, Ouey also said that he once met a Chinese hermit who advised him that eating children's intestines would grant him supernatural powers. So that's like one of the reasons why he also ate them, because he wanted to be
Powerful.
supernatural.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't get where people come up with these things, like how they come up with these things, because I also heard the same thing about balut. Like, that's why people kind of like to eat it even if it's weird. I mean, I love balut. But for those of you who don't know what that is, it's like duckling, is it?
Duck embryo.
Yeah.
It sounds so wrong when you say it that way.
I mean, it also looks wrong, to be honest, but it's good. It tastes
true.
good. But yeah, I keep wondering how they come up with these. Is it because after you eat, ooh, I feel stronger, so I'm probably supernatural? Or, I mean, when I eat, I just feel full and I want to sleep.
Also, what did he need to like murder children? Like, you can just dig up a grave if you want supernatural powers. Like, the cemeteries, it's still wrong, guys. Do not do it. But like,
wait, you know what? I think those ones in the grave don't have their insides. I think they've already taken that out. So I guess if you want to do like some business, go to like an autopsy place or a mortician.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
guys,
a
don't.
funeral home.
Just don't.
Or just don't do it. Because if that was true, there would be like a lot of supernatural people roaming around if that was true. But there's
monsters.
none.
These would be the monsters. That's why.
Yeah, maybe like the Chinese hermit meant that you'd become a monster, not a supernatural creature, and like he misinterpreted.
This is why communication is key, people. Like, we have to make context of things. Look at us talking about communication as if we know what we're talking about and we're good at it.
We can barely like express our thoughts.
Woo!
That, you know, that shit. But yeah, back to Ouey. Ouey didn't put up any fight when his trial opened on March 25, 1958. He confessed to every count of murder pressed against him. I obviously copy-pasted this. But yeah, and freely discussed his exploits in court. Among the witnesses who testified against Ouey were the young siblings of the 6-year-old Ouey Chu, which, like, young siblings of a 6-year-old, that would be like 4-year-old, right? Like, is that okay to put a child as young as that in court?
Wait, sorry, so we don't really know their age?
No, it just says that the young siblings of the 6-year-old victim. So if it's like younger than 6, so it's like 5'6", 5'4", right? 5'4", 3", because it's siblings.
Wait, stop. Did you say 6 years old or 60?
6, the 6-year-old victim.
Jesus, I was thinking 60, so that's why I was like a little bit confused. Like, why would they be 4? What kind of parents? What?
But yeah, the 6. So it should be like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Do those like testimonies hold up in court or something? Like, now I'm pretty sure back then laws were different, but now, like, is it okay to bring kids that young in court, like, especially with like these kinds of details that are discussed in court? So I don't know. Let me know if you guys know, if you're like a lawyer or something. Let me know. So yeah, the siblings said that they saw him leading their sister away from a Chinese New Year fair in Bangkok, Chinatown, on November 30, 1954, the night before her body was found dumped near the railroad tracks. His trial lasted only 9 days. The court initially sentenced Ouey to life, but the prosecutors immediately appealed the verdict, arguing that the mandatory clemency granted for his confessions shouldn't apply because the evidence would have been enough to convict him. So the appeals court agreed and sentenced Ouey to die. Ouey reportedly fainted upon hearing the verdict.
How dramatic.
Like, how dare you kill children but, like, faint at the fact that you're
gonna die?
You know? That is... Anyway. So, yeah, he was locked up in northern Bangkok's notorious prison called Bang Kwang Prison until Field Marshal Saritanarat, who ruled the military junta at that time, signed an order for his death, and he was executed by firing squad on September 17, 1959. But until July 23, 2020, tourists and visitors were still free to visit Ouey almost every day, though he was executed. The Forensic Medicine Museum of Siriraj Hospital is known to many Thais as the Ouey Museum. That's because Ouey's shriveled corpse, slathered in tar and wax, is put up for display in a glass case. Visitors could see the bullet holes left by the executioners, and his corpse used to have a sign, Ouey, cannibal, but they changed it to death row inmate in 2019. So, why did they change it from cannibal to
that's so very recent.
Inmate? Yeah, in like 2 years ago. So, at the time that he was caught, or he was executed, anti-Chinese sentiments were at its peak back in like 1950s. Some of the locals in Thailand believe that the anti-Chinese sentiments played a role in his prosecution. So I'll let you make the decision if he's innocent or not. I already have my own opinion, but I'll share the story. So the media also didn't help with his case. Headlines would say, police arrest child murderer who rips out victim's heart and sucks fresh blood. And they also published a photo of Ouey's face looking disfigured and angry, and it looked like he was shouting at the photographer, but he was actually just yawning. They really, destroyed his image. And the Thai media is known to do that. But yeah.
The government is listening.
They're listening right now. They're like, destroy these two. But no.
We still want to visit you guys, because especially since they've already legalized.
Now we want to live there. No, we want to live there. Their cannabis is legalized. Good for them. But yeah, it's a really beautiful country too.
Look at us kissing ass.
After saying, they're... Maybe at that time, the media wasn't good, but maybe it changed now. We don't know. We're not living there. So if you're from Thailand, let us know the tea. So yeah, his confession, of course, was based on what Ouey told the authorities. Forensic science was almost non-existent in Thailand at that time. Thais only started to pay attention to forensic science in 1946. 12 years earlier, this whole case happened. Why they started to pay attention was that they did shooting tests to examine the path of bullets, and an autopsy was performed to investigate the mysterious death of King Anada Mahidol, whose mysterious death I'll be covering in a shorty. And after, DNA wasn't widely practiced at that time, they also didn't do DNA identification seriously until 2004. After the Indian Ocean earthquake, when they needed to identify the bodies.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of crime-solving factors that aren't the same as it is today. Another issue was Ouey could not communicate directly with the judges or the investigators because he couldn't speak Thai. He spoke very little Thai, so he had a translator or an interpreter.
Right.
But police said that they had witness descriptions that matched Seaway, and the pattern and methods were identical. Major Tikayu Bunatikul, commander of Rayong Police, told newspapers on Feb 6, 1958 that Seaway had confessed voluntarily. He said there was no threat made against him. The interpreter simply told him, say everything what you want to say.
How convenient.
Yeah. A number of skeptics are not convinced that Seaway was the villain that he was made to be. Some say it would have been extremely difficult for a lone, impoverished Chinese man who couldn't speak Thai travel so extensively all over Thailand. And I did check the places where the victims were. They're not that far from each other. There were 3 victims that were in one same place. Bangkok is an hour away from where he lived, and then one of the other places was like 9 minutes away from Bangkok. So
it's not that far.
It's not that far. Seaway, according to like the skeptics, Seaway was also at a disadvantage because he was a poor immigrant arriving from China, and then Thailand's military governments at that time were keen to like stir up anti-Chinese sentiments in the Cold War because they wanted to like blame immigrants for crime and unrest because they were anti-communism. Police at that time also had a reputation for beating confessions out of suspects, and popular newspapers dished out tabloid style to like create, sensationalism to sell more newspapers.
Woo.
And it also took 96 hours of interrogation after, he got caught. As we know, like, if you watch, like, if you're a true crime fan, or if you've, like, done any research, 96 hours is too long for an interrogation. You're sleep deprived, you're most likely hungry, your anxiety levels are high.
Yeah.
You would just say anything just to
get it done and over with.
Yeah, and I did some research. There are a lot of, like, usually if it's, like, 6 to 12 hours of interrogation without food or water, there are false confessions that happen. And more so if it's, like, 24 hours. How much more if you were, like, interrogated for 96 hours? I feel like you would say anything just to, like...
That's already
get
torture.
People. Yeah, that's kind of torture. Others also point to the record of Thai police framing scapegoats when they're under pressure in high-profile murder cases.
Sounds familiar.
Yep. I'm not gonna say who it is, but
like no shade, but sounds familiar.
When you know. Yep. An example of like framing scapegoats was Sawai bin Silpachai. He was a Thai butcher who was identified by police as the serial child killer and locked him up for nearly a year. So they kind of blamed him at first for like the other murders that Seaway admitted to. The court released him on bail on January 1958, a month before Seaway's arrest. They haven't captured like Seaway at that time yet, but he was able to like get out on bail. His family at that time complained about the police making Sawai as a scapegoat. They say, "We have lost so much money, we're almost penniless now, even though my son is completely innocent." That's what Sawai's mother said to reporters. Police also briefly toyed with the idea of prosecuting Sawai as an accomplice of Seaway, but eventually dropped it due to lack of evidence. So they were like grasping straws to like
oh my god,
imprison this dude. Thai police are like known to do shit just to close a case, especially if it's like a really famous case. Psychiatrists at that time deemed him free of any mental disorders. In the only interview Seaway is known to have given the media, he said he believed in consuming human vitals because it would strengthen his health. So aside from like turning him, like what he believed, like turning him into like a supernatural person, he also believed that it would strengthen his health. He said, "I ate them because they revitalized my body." Seaway was quoted through an interpreter. And then he added again that human intestines really tasted good, and he said it as a matter of factly.
That's so alarming.
Yeah. When he was asked why he targeted children, he said because they were easy to lure and fool. If I targeted adults, they might fight back. And then he also added that he never sexually abused any of the victims, despite what some of the reports said.
Wait, so who was the interpreter? Did he get it for himself, or was that provided by the police or something?
No, that was provided by the police.
Mm-hmm.
So several documentaries in recent years have pointed out flaws during the trial, including timelines that don't match and testimonies even in court that were questionable. Ouey's confession of eating organs were also thrown into doubt when recent studies of police documents revealed that no body parts were actually missing from the 3 bodies that Ouey allegedly admitted to have killed. Ouey recalled these details during an interrogation after the murder of Sombun in Rayong. This was over 3 years after the murder in Bangkok. But Ouey also admitted that the interrogators never threatened him or forced him into a confession. And it's on record. But also, if you're in prison and the media would ask you, are you threatened to confess? Of course you're gonna say no.
It's no.
But yeah.
Because then after that, they could just beat you up or whatever. Not to say that they will.
Yeah.
They can. They might.
Yeah, so there's still, issues or factors that are questionable. Interrogators never asked for locations of the murders in Bangkok and the other places, but Ouey gave them freely and was correct in placing them. But there were also discrepancies in his confession. The heart and liver of young Ouey Chu, the victim who he said he wasn't able to eat the heart because it was too small, that was never cut out and it was found intact. Ouey also never spent much time in Bangkok, but he also knew the place, the roads, and the bridge names. There was records of him going to Bangkok 10 days before the murder of Ouey Chu. In his confession, he said that he stayed with a man called Mr. Ouey Sai Nang on the night of the murder, and he was staying there. And I guess if you were staying in somebody else's house, people would see if you had blood on your stuff, right? But they weren't able to get that information if he had bloody clothes.
Yeah. I'm amazed that they mentioned him knowing the streets and places, because in the first place, he could barely speak Thai. And I think it'd be very difficult for you to remember names of locations that are not in your language.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like I've been there in Singapore multiple times, but I cannot remember a street name.
I don't even know where the places are, and I've lived here for 3 years already.
Right? Or maybe he's just special, he can remember names of places.
I mean, yeah, but then the fact that those victims were also not cut out, was he just asking for trouble to say, yeah, I ate them, just to keep this conversation interesting?
We'll never know. Also, his arrest and execution came at the height of the Cold War. At that time, Thailand was ruled by a military dictatorship preaching about the Red Scare or Red China, and then they really disagreed with the growing number of Chinese immigrants arriving in Thailand. So there was that. Also, Field Marshal Sarit that I mentioned earlier, they signed the death warrant even though there were plenty of civil rights activists that were asking him to make sure that this is the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing was that Field Marshal Sarit was known to execute Chinese men and then just accuse them of arson. So yeah, that's what he was known for.
Interesting.
There is a Facebook page called Poetry of Bitch, as in like BITCH, which like gathered evidence. So they're kind of like online sleuths. They gathered evidence and evidence for Ouey's innocence for like while searching like news sources and investigations. And they named the supposed real killer. Their suspect, they say, is a Thai man named Gleang, who they claim was the brother-in-law of a respected deputy district chief. The Facebook page Poetry of Bitch also alleges that Gleang has a history of mental illness and was actually identified by name and was even described correctly by the survivor of the first victim of Ouey's attack. And this is true. This is in the police reports. And then they previously, like, aside from that, there were pieces of, like, liver and, like, heart allegedly found in Gleang's pockets. So there was a Thai PBS documentary. Yes, he, like, kept that there. So apparently there are, like, a lot of cannibals probably in Thailand at that time. We never know.
But why pocket?
Maybe he I don't want to joke about this, but like maybe he like wanted to eat it later, or like maybe he was keeping it there not knowing that he would be searched.
Okay, wait, you know what? I'm imagining stupid things. Like just the entire organ straight into the pocket. No Ziploc, no whatever.
Pieces.
Like, damn, son.
No, it was like pieces of the liver and heart.
Still!
Not the whole thing, but yeah. There was a Thai PBS documentary that aired in 2018 where locals were interviewed by the PBS segment who lived near Ouey back when the killings occurred. And they also pointed to the mysterious Gleang. Like, they said, like, yeah, he's like a sketchy character. However, Gleang was never questioned or prosecuted because, you know, his brother-in-law was like a deputy district chief. And he was able to, like, yeet out of the place. Like, he left the place.
I love the term yeet out of it. It's like,
my niece keeps on saying yeet, so now I'm like,
yeet.
I don't want to like include it in my vocabulary, but it's like the first thing I think of whenever it's that. But
it's
yeah, he left the place once people started like suspecting him for the murders. But also, like, if people suspected me, I probably would be like, you know, because he had a history of mental illness and people started suspecting him. He probably thought that he would be arrested. So maybe that's why he left. Like, guilty or not, like, I would understand why he left.
Yeah. No, and plus the fact the first convicted person was killed. Like, you wouldn't want that potentially happening to you, so it makes sense.
Oh, but at that time, he wasn't killed yet. Ouey was still in prison at that time when he yeeted.
Okay, but still.
But yeah, knowing that he's already in jail and, like, probably will die, I would leave the place too. Ouey was also, like, employed by a lot of the locals that were interviewed in that PBS documentary, and they say that he was a shy and quiet man and that he would never take advantage of anyone. There was a girl that her name was Wanapa Tonshim. Her parents hired Ouey, and she said, "My mom loved him. It didn't make sense for him to be a child killer." After the Thai PBS documentary was released, people took to Twitter to take down the label of the corpse as cannibal. And after 19,871 signatures in change.org, his name was changed from cannibal to death row inmate. On July 23, 2020, last year, residents of the town where he once lived lobbied for a proper funeral. So Wanapa said villagers spoke of him as a good person and made me feel sorry for him. It was as if he was being tormented. So we had to find a way to bring him out of the glass box. So yeah, and the medical staff where he was held in the display said that like he kind of became part of them because they learned a lot from him because they would like study his corpse. So yeah, they had like a yearly thing for Seaway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of like not really a celebration, but they had like a yearly thing of like thank you for
Commemoration?
No, I don't know if it's commemoration, but they had an annual event. That was the actual words that they said. Like an annual event to thank him for his medical whatever donations. Like I guess he was forced to be that way. So I don't.
This is why the creepers need to subscribe to us on Patreon. Y'all need to pay for our vocabulary lessons because clearly we need to expand our jargon.
Yes. That is so true. But yeah, so now he was cremated, but he doesn't have any relatives. They tried to contact his relatives, but they couldn't find any traces of like if he had like next of kin or whatever. So as of now, he's like stateless. And the villagers where he used to live want his ashes to stay there because, you know, that's where he lived and they quote unquote loved him. But the parents of the victim, Sombun Bunyakan, the first victim that I mentioned earlier, his father, Nawa Bunyakan, said, like, for decades after his son's death, he still insists that Seaway is a murderous cannibal because the cops did find the heart and liver of his son in his house. So, yeah, that's the story of Seaway, Thailand's boogeyman. So what do you guys think? Do you think I actually think he's not innocent. He might not have committed the other crimes. Yeah. But, like, with Sombun, most likely he killed him because they found, you know, evidence in his house. But to play devil's advocate, maybe it was planted there. We never know.
Yeah. I think it's also difficult to just point fingers to one person, especially since the different crimes happened in different places. So it could be multiple people. It's just very similar. Or, I mean, yeah, with the limited information we have, we can't just say this is a serial killer and one person is the culprit.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
What do you guys think?
There were so many discrepancies because he was able to, like, get some of the details right, but also some of the details wrong. So maybe he could have read them in like the newspaper, or maybe he was forced to, like, if you've seen How to Get Away with Murder, like how the kid was coerced. You know, we never know. And he didn't speak Thai, so maybe there's like an issue there, but I don't think he's as innocent as people think he is. Yeah. But I also kind of don't think that he did all of those like crimes, because I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but I read in one of the articles that mentioned like when he was a kid, like this dude that they interviewed knew Seaway when he was a kid, and he would say that Seaway used to give candies to children, and you know, that's kind of sus for being
yes. I mean, I know some people actually do enjoy that, but no, thank you.
As a single man who lives alone, that's kind of like,
sir.
Right? You know, like, sure, he could have liked children, but he could have liked children, you know what I mean?
I was gonna say, yeah. Oh, God. Ugh, that gives me the heebie-jeebies. I really hate it when people target children, especially.
Yeah.
I personally do not like kids, but I also don't hate them to the point where I want shit to happen to them, you know?
I just don't want them in my space. That's it. Like, the only children that I like are, like, my family members. But, like...
Even my...
I know Nikki doesn't like kids at all. But, like, that for moms out there, like, I have total respect for you guys, because...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Kids are not... I don't know. I don't want to
They will test your patience.
Right? Yes. Kids are like source of stress, right? Am I saying it right?
I totally agree. Yes. Yes, they are.
But yeah, let us know what you guys think. If you guys know more about this case, if you're from Thailand or know someone from Thailand, and like if you have more tea about this case, let us know.
Message us at creepyconvos@gmail.com.
Or
And
like,
what was your shorty?
oh yeah, King Anada Mahidol. He's the dude who had the mysterious death. So y'all better watch out. I'm pretty sure it's out by the time you hear this.
No, it wouldn't be. It's the special content.
Oh, right.
think.
I don't know.
I mean, whatever, but like if you guys want to make sure that you get the tea on that, subscribe to us on patreon.com/creepyconvos.
Yup. Also, yeah, follow us on Spotify and iTunes. Like, rate, review, subscribe. You guys know what to do. And our socials also. Creepy Conversations on Instagram. We're more active on Instagram now compared to all the others.
We have pictures! I mean, if you guys want to see it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you guys want to see it.
Yeah. We also post stories. If you like.
That was like such an Ariana Grande thing. Yeah.
Really?
Isn't that her thing?
No, I used to like say yeah ever since.
Or like, yeah. This whole thing is just gonna be filled with yeah.
But yeah, follow us on our socials.
If you guys want us to stop saying yeah, subscribe to us.
Yes. Yeah. We gotta stop. It's annoying me. But
What?
I was about to say something. I was like, but, and then I forgot. So I'm like,
I'll just end their misery and say, thanks for creeping, you fucking creeper.
yes. And remember, the government is always watching you. Bye.